Stand on this ancient African shore 3,000 years ago, and you would see a city rising that would one day nearly destroy Rome itself. This was Carthage, a glittering city born from Phoenician sailors who crossed an open sea to build something greater than a trading colony. Within 2 centuries, it became the wealthiest trading power on earth, ruling coastlines that stretched from distant Spain to the shores of Sicily. But this is not merely a story about gold, ships and silver. It is the story of an empire that came very close to erasing Rome from history. Legend says a determined queen named Dido fled her homeland in disgrace and founded this city upon a hill overlooking the African coastline. She was allowed to buy only as much land as an ox hide could cover, so she cleverly sliced that hide into 1,000 thin strips of leather. That single cunning trick secured enough ground to build a city, and from that act of defiance, an entire empire slowly began to take shape. By the 6th century before Christ, Carthage had grown from a modest port into a formidable Mediterranean superpower feared by rivals everywhere. Picture towering stone walls stretching for miles, protecting warehouses stacked impossibly high with silver bars, grain and precious purple dye. The harbor itself was a marvel of ancient engineering, a circular basin brilliantly built for 200 warships to dock there all at once. Merchants shouted in a dozen languages, while camels and heavy carts moved spices, ivory and fine cloth through the crowded, dusty city streets. Above it all rose Byrsa Hill, crowned with grand temples where priests offered solemn prayers to gods far older than Rome would ever become. Carthaginian ships sailed past the Pillars of Hercules, trading with distant lands so far that Rome barely even knew these places existed at all. Silver flowed endlessly in from rich Spanish mines, and that silver funded armies, fleets and alliances stretching across 3 continents. But across the narrow sea, a young and ambitious republic was steadily growing hungry, and its name was Rome, restless and eager for expansion. Both powers desperately wanted Sicily, that fertile island sitting between them like a rich prize neither proud side would ever willingly give up. In 264 before Christ, the first spark ignited, and the long, brutal Punic Wars began to violently reshape the ancient world. For 23 brutal years, Carthage and Rome fought savagely over Sicily's harbors, its rich farmland, and its strategic coastal ports. Rome, a land power with practically no navy at all, built an entire fleet of warships almost overnight by copying a captured Carthaginian vessel. It was a truly staggering gamble. Yet Roman persistence and clever new tactics slowly but surely turned the tide upon the open, dangerous water. By 241 before Christ, an exhausted Carthage surrendered Sicily, losing its first war and a great deal of national pride. The uneasy peace was bitter, and in the shadows of that painful defeat, a dangerous new leader was quietly being shaped for future vengeance. His name was Hannibal Barca, and as a young boy, he swore a solemn oath before the gods to remain Rome's enemy for the rest of his entire life. He grew into perhaps the finest general the ancient world had ever seen, patient, ruthless, and utterly obsessed with achieving Roman defeat. In 218 before Christ, Hannibal attempted the unthinkable, marching a massive army with war elephants directly toward the Alps. Brutal snow, bitter cold, and starvation killed thousands of his exhausted men, yet Hannibal still pressed relentlessly into the heart of Italy. At the rivers Trebia and Trasimene, Roman legions were shattered, and raw panic spread through the frightened streets of Rome like wildfire. Then came Cannae, where Hannibal brilliantly encircled an entire Roman army and destroyed it in a single catastrophic, blood-soaked afternoon. Nearly 50,000 Roman soldiers died within hours, making it one of the single bloodiest days in the entire history of ancient warfare. For one brief moment, it truly seemed Carthage might conquer Rome itself, and the entire ancient world held its breath in stunned disbelief. Yet Hannibal never received the fresh reinforcements he desperately needed, and stubborn Rome simply refused to collapse, surrender, or die. City after loyal Italian city stayed faithful to Rome, stubbornly denying Hannibal the local allies his brilliant campaign truly required most. While Hannibal lingered deep in Italy, an ambitious young Roman commander named Scipio was quietly studying every one of his clever tactics. Scipio boldly invaded Spain, then Africa itself, finally forcing Hannibal to abandon Italy entirely and rush home to defend Carthage itself. In 202 before Christ, the two greatest generals of that age finally met on the open plains near Zama for one last decisive battle. Scipio had studied Hannibal's every tactic for years, and this time Rome's superior cavalry ultimately decided the outcome of the entire war. Carthage's proud army broke and scattered in total chaos, and with that crushing defeat, its dream of conquering Rome died forever on that field. Hannibal himself survived the battle, but the once mighty empire he had bled for was now forced painfully to its knees before harsh Roman demands. Carthage paid crushing yearly tribute, surrendered its entire war fleet, and watched helplessly as unchecked Roman power grew stronger each year. Yet somehow, against impossible odds, the battered city slowly rebuilt itself, and its markets once again filled with fresh wealth and busy trade. That surprising recovery terrified Rome, and nervous Roman senators began quietly whispering that Carthage must never again be allowed to rise. One stubborn senator ended every speech he ever gave, on any topic whatsoever, with the same chilling phrase, "Carthage must be utterly destroyed." In 149 before Christ, Rome invented a flimsy excuse for war, and Carthage stood almost completely defenseless against it. For 3 horrifying years, Roman legions besieged the desperate city, while its terrified people fought bitterly, street by street, to survive. Women reportedly cut their own hair to weave into bowstrings, refusing to surrender the city even as slow starvation spread through every home. When the mighty walls finally fell, Roman soldiers burned Carthage for 17 relentless days, until almost nothing of it remained standing. Survivors were dragged away and sold into slavery, and the once mighty capital of an empire became a smoldering field of ash and broken stone. Centuries later, Rome itself quietly rebuilt Carthage as a new Roman city, seemingly unaware it was standing directly upon the bones of its rival. And yet, despite devastating fire, brutal siege, mass starvation, and utter destruction, the story of Carthage refused to fully disappear. Its busy harbors, its glittering silver, and its daring general still echo powerfully through history as a warning about power, pride, and war. If this story pulled you deep into the ancient world, hit that subscribe button so you never miss the very next lost empire we bring to life. Tell us down in the comments which forgotten city or empire truly deserves its own cinematic journey through history in an upcoming video.